Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News Digital Desk. Welcome to your Today in 10. That's a look at the top stories of the day as we prepare you for our nightly newscast. And we like to start this off by a look at the weather. And with that, we bring you Samantha Roberts.
Jeff, a chilly night, but not quite as cold as yesterday evening. We're going to be in the upper 30s tonight in Cleveland. Away from the lakeshore, we will be in the lower 30s, and it's going to be blustery tonight. So wind chill or feels like temperature by tomorrow morning, only around 30 degrees. Really chilly out there. And then clouds thicken up over the course of the day tomorrow, but we should see overall a little more sun tomorrow than what we saw today. Highs tomorrow around 57, a little warmer, but I'll tell you, it's going to be windy. Now, it's because of that warm southerly wind that temperatures are going to be warm again tomorrow, but you'll notice that breeze, winds coming out of the south, about 10 to 20 miles per hour sustained, gusting upwards of 30 miles per hour. Definitely a noticeably more windy day. Another warmer day on Saturday. We have a nice warming trend on the way, and we're going to stay mild for a while. No snow, by the way, on the 7-day. 56 on Saturday, 58 on Sunday. Weather looks good for the Browns game. Basically, between Friday and Sunday, only a chance for a very isolated shower. Warming up Monday, 67 before a cold front comes in to bring us rain late Monday night into Tuesday.
All right, Sam, thank you so much. And of course, we'll have our weather stream coming up as well, and 19 News at 10 and 11. All right, now to our story of the day here. Ohio has a chance to get $86 million to prevent opioid addiction and opioids from coming into Ohio. Something that could be absolutely massive for families, for those that are suffering, those that are living with addiction. We spoke with a member of the White House who announced this about why this could be such a big deal. I don't mind just kind of starting off by the announcement that came yesterday and the implications this could have, if passed, for communities like us here in Ohio.
Absolutely. We know that we have a drug crisis that is ravaging so many families. It is a top priority on the President Biden's unity agenda. So it is important that communities like those in Ohio get the resources that they need. It is with that mindset that President Biden had sent a supplemental request of more than $1.5 billion to Congress to act, in addition to $1.2 billion to secure a border. Now, Ohio will get about $86 million out of this, which will go towards helping prevention, helping people get treatment, recovery support services, and other services, which will ultimately lead to saving more lives of Ohioans.
86 would be the third highest for any state. We know here in Ohio our problems that we have with the opioid pandemic, and particularly with the impacts that it's having on lower income communities, things like that. Have the numbers shown that Ohio needs this much attention, needs this much funding to be able to fight this?
Well, let me tell you, I've spent a lot of time in my home state of West Virginia, and I can tell you when it comes to communities in Ohio and West Virginia and Pennsylvania, more money, it could be more helpful in order to get struggling families and communities the help they need. And so this money is absolutely needed. It is critical. In fact, you can almost say it's urgently needed because these resources equal saving lives in so many ways. How did that happen? Well, first of all, people who are overdosing need, at a time when a person is dying every 5 minutes around the clock in this country, access to naloxone or Narcan, which is an antidote. They need access to quality treatment. They need access to recovery support services and prevention. All these things are important because they can make the difference between somebody being there or not at the dinner table for families, especially when holidays are coming.
The holiday season, I'm glad you brought that up, is a time when many increase their usage, are very much so in need of this type of help. While if this does pass, we wouldn't see the immediate impacts of it, when would you hope those impacts would actually happen?
Well, I would like to see this yesterday, both pass and the money flow through. The reason this is important is that the families that really are in urgent need of these resources. So as soon as Congress acts to approve this funding, we would see the funding cycle move forward and money flowing through upon the request of the states. And I know that the state government in Ohio can definitely utilize the $86 million to help communities to get those resources out there in communities.
You mentioned the importance of naloxone and things like that. Is there anything else that you would specifically suggest that this money goes toward? I know one thing I do want to hit on in particular is education, stigma-related education and obvious, understanding, but how important would something like that be in the usage of this grant money?
are tremendously important. It's very important that at a time when we have so many counterfeit pills, online sales of these counterfeit pills that are disguised as Adderall or Xanax or Oxys, but they're really deadly doses of fentanyl contained in them, that people become aware. They become aware that in their drug supply is contaminated with some of the most lethal drugs ever known to a person in the history of mankind. So it's important that that information gets there, but also the ability to get people the help when and where they need it. Meaning if somebody wants to get treatment whenever they want to, they should have access to it, and then recovery support services. All of these things become important and rather necessary when the resources are there. And this is exactly what President Biden is trying to do, is to send those resources to Ohio in order to help families and also save lives.
And I think the key with it is response. Many people just say, oh, take the drugs away, but users will find a way to use them regardless. That response seems very key. Is that response a major part of this? Is that something that you're hoping can increase and be able to help these people in the future?
Yes, as a physician, I can tell you that treatment works if we also limit the supply, but then get people the help they need. Addiction or substance use disorder is a disease like no different than diabetes or high blood pressure. And we need to make sure that people who have this disease get the help they need, and that's part of the response. So it is important to get people the help in terms of looking at this as a disease. It's important to get the medical system and the healthcare system the resources it needs to be able to respond, but also things like housing and transportation and food security. All these things help people not just survive, but actually thrive.
I just have one last question for you. It does relate to us here in Ohio, and as I mentioned, this is the third highest that would be given to any state here. Are you hoping that this opens people's eyes to know that, yes, this is a problem, but also there are solutions available?
Absolutely. I know that Ohioans are very well aware of the challenges of substance use disorder overdose. It's also important for them to be aware of the resources that are available, the access to treatment, access to naloxone or Narcan, which has now become over-the-counter available during this administration. It is important because having that knowledge allows one to not only save their life and look out for their loved ones, but also their community. And sometimes even strangers. If you're carrying naloxone or Narcan, you may be helping not just your community or family and friends, but it could be a random stranger. And you could be that person that's the difference between life and death of that individual. That is why it's important to be aware of these resources that are available. And we can all play our role in the fight against this crisis as the president has called for.
We are now in a waiting game to see if this will pass through. We love to give our guests the last word. Doctor, is there anything that we didn't touch on that we should have during this interview?
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's critically important that Congress act with a sense of urgency to ensure that people across America, including Ohioans, get the help they need in a timely manner.
All right, and that is it for this story. Of course, we'll have much more on this tonight on 19 News at 10 and 11, in addition to our first lit forecast coming up in about an hour. So we'll see you then. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson, 19 News. Have a great night. Much more to come, both on air and online.
19 News, now streaming on Samsung Smart TV. Search for channel 103.